we're going to get the meeting started. I apologize for the delay in getting out of our executive session. If you all please rise, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are going to start with student recognition this evening. Betty, if you could note for the record, please, that the board did meet in executive session to discuss proposed pending and current litigation.
Okay, hello everyone. And hello to you. Come on up. Come on up. Okay, so every other meeting, hello everyone. We have student recognition. Tonight we are recognizing students in our writing program, our writing fellows. So hello to all of you and welcome. And we also have some musicians with us tonight. Or are we musicians or artists tonight? Musicians. Musicians. Okay. One never knows. So let me tell you a little bit about the Writing Center Fellows. The North Shore High School Writing Center Fellowship is a unique position, one that requires not only exemplary academic ability, but also a profound commitment to elevating others. The fellows create comfortable spaces for their tutees, inviting students to collaborate in one-on-one discussions about their own writing process. By harnessing their skills to cultivate the talents of their peers, the fellows exemplify our vision of school as a community of learners, celebrating the strengths of the students they encounter, and inspiring both their classmates' sense of security and their ability to craft their own writing evolution. I love when you give me stuff, it's so beautifully written.
Everyone is good at something.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm a writer, so I really appreciate it. The writing process is an invaluable tool for learning. It embodies that vital interaction with information that allows students to access, assess, and express ideas. We thank the fellows for empowering their classmates to use writing with increasing confidence and ability. We thank them for helping to give our students a voice. And on behalf of all of them, I thank you very much. So when I call your name, you come up, we're going to shake your hand, give you a certificate, give you the North Shore pen.
Very appropriate for this occasion.
Which many of you probably have multiple of already. And then you'll hang out here for a couple of minutes and we'll take your picture. Fair? Yeah. Okay.
Do this.
Let's do it. Okay, Isabella Bratter, come on up.
Yeah, the last time I could not come. We have a list. Sports and some other things.
You have a list of those. These are
It'll
not
be
in
fine.
order.
It's not that
I'll read their names. They should have their names read.
It's not that many certificates. She'll be.
I'll just hand them ones to you and make sure they're here.
I would love that. In fact, why don't you call their names? That would be even better, since you do such a nice job at Honor Society.
Okay, we're going to skip that.
I didn't go there.
Surprise.
I did not go there.
Do I really need a microphone? I think people can hear me.
On the video.
Okay. Sarah Brown. No, you can hear me.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
It's exactly how you think.
Yeah? You think? Well, let's see. Milagros Bush Freres.
You're welcome.
Congratulations and thank you.
Alyssa Day.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, she's
Thank you.
at a game.
Okay.
And this is going to be her twin at a game. Wendy's not here, right? She was going to come. Okay. She probably had to babysit her sister. Annabelle's not here. Catherine Hagan. Giancarlo Royal. Kaylin Schoenhofen. Sarah Stelling. James Vizza.
Hello, James. There we go. Well done. No bow tie tonight.
And Olivia Vizza.
Very nicely done. All right, so nobody move.
I was like, we're going to have to squish up, but they're all taller than we are. Oh. So,
That's a good idea. Let me say this to Dr. Crimson. This day will live in infamy. Guys, we should all hold them. We should all hold them the same way. Should we do like? Should we do? No, that's. What about like? Mom, wait. We're figuring stuff out. Oh gosh.
these people have an agenda. You need to move along.
Don't move it. Don't move it. Got it? Here we go. One. Let's see what I got here. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Rodriguez, come on up. I think we're going to start a new, maybe, tradition tonight.
You're not going to have any problems. I'm going to get them all wrong. I don't teach them. You're not going to do that.
I am. No. So, the Long Island Strings Festival. This year, 7 North Shore students were invited to perform at the Long Island String Festival. The festival provides the opportunity for outstanding string players from each school district in Nassau and Suffolk County to come together to perform challenging orchestral repertoire over the course of a few days and to perform in a concert under the direction of distinguished conductors and music educators. Thank you very much. You have a pen?
Right here.
Oh, okay. Next time.
Next time.
You get a pass tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. Christopher Gosling. Micah Mikala. Alan Reynolds. Very nicely done.
Hey,
Good job.
congratulations.
Hey, Colin, come here. Mom's looking to take a picture. Come here.
Thank you.
Don't move. Hannah Sadowski. Nicely done. Okay. That's that.
That's it? Sure.
Like a picture,
Short-lived
wait.
one.
You want one too, right? All right, come on over. You got one. You want one too? Okay.
You want the group?
Yes, please. What are your instruments? Cello? Violin. Cello and violin. Beautiful. Okay, and lastly, we have the New York State Band Directors Association. Honor band members are chosen each year from hundreds of applications statewide based upon scores in the New York State Music Association, or NYSSMA, evaluation the previous spring. The band performs during the New York State Band Directors Association Annual Symposium in Liverpool, New York. That's pretty far away, right? Having prepared their music in advance, students convene and rehearse for 3 days, performing a concert at the end of their symposium. Selection to this prestigious ensemble demonstrates exceptional musicianship and is an outstanding accomplishment. This year, 5 North Shore High School students and 4 middle school students were invited to perform. That's quite excellent. Okay. Thank you. Nathaniel Brower.
Trombone.
Trombone. Excellent. Maxwell Bross. I saw him. You were terrific this week.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Really
it.
enjoyed it.
There's a guy.
Thank you.
Catherine DeTrano.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anna Ikawa.
Not here.
Not here. Andrew McClellan. Brandon Zhu. Thank you all very much. Let's take a photo. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's all of it, right? That's it. Is he supposed to get over?
Okay. Thank you, parents, not just for coming this evening, but for all you've done to support your kids in getting these awards tonight. Thank you.
It's fun. It's always fun.
Sweet. It's fun. All right. All right, trustees, we will proceed. Our next action item is the approval of the minutes from March 14th. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you. Action item number 4 is the approval of the treasurer's report from February. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Are there any questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. 5 is the report of the superintendent.
Okay, very good, thank you. Hey, Shelley, can you do me a favor? Could you just pull up the our homepage for a second, please? Do you mind? It should. Thank you, John. So you want me to do it after? Really? Okay. All right. Hit escape. Thank you. Okay, so it's a little hard to see. We'll get the lights in a second, but I did want to just let the board know that we've been working on a little bit of a new web design. And this is the first night that it is live. And so what we've done is we've the photographs are wider, the print is a little bit bigger, there's a little bit more white space. There's our new assistant superintendent. There he is. Okay, it's like in 3D. And so we're really, we've taken some new pictures, so it's all the content is essentially the same, but it's got a fresh, new, clean look that I think is really terrific. Hit the home button for a second, Michelle. Yeah, that's it. Right. So, yep. No, that made it worse. Yep. It's really good. You'll see it when you get home. Take a look at it on a desktop, and there's me. It's really nice on a desktop. It's not as clean on in this format, but enjoy it. And I want to thank Shelley for your hard work in getting that done, and Scott Pulo, North Shore graduate, who helps us with our web design. Okay. Okay, so to my report. Thank you so much. Tonight, I'm really pleased to present our final budget to the board this evening. 1920 budget that is proposed for the board's adoption is noted at $1,799,954.90, and it reflects a tax levy increase of 2.63% and a budget-to-budget increase of 2.8%. As we've talked about, the allowable tax levy limit for North Shore this year was 2.7. So we are just below that. I'm proud to give you a budget that enacts our strategic plan, upgrades our safety and security measures, enhances our academic program in significant ways, addresses and deals with social and emotional learning in very targeted, meaningful ways, maintains our infrastructure and facilities, and we have so much information on our website. You can click through the whole budget narrative, all the books, all the budget lines, all the revenue sources. It's all there. We will start to distill this information into one-page, budget information documents, and then we'll also have the budget newsletter, which is a much larger document that will go out within the next few weeks. They're in development now. We'll also, once the board adopts this budget, it becomes the board's budget. I will then spend a good deal of time out talking with anybody who will listen to me about it. I meet in people's homes. We're actually going to do a little bit of a different formatting this year. We're going to try to do these at Starbucks and Grassroots and some of our local places, so it's a little bit more casual. So I'll be out, so be on the lookout for those. There'll be a schedule. Some of the highlights that we've included, that I just included for tonight, just high-level overview. At the high school level, we're introducing FIRST Robotics at the 11th grade level. We have a cycle of computer science now for all students. We have some new coursework in coding and robotics and app design. We have, at the middle level, a coding course for all middle school students. We're introducing the use of digital portfolios. At the middle level, we're introducing research database, so kids can use ProQuest to do research real live. We're introducing experiences in our elective program in media and literacy. At the elementary level, for all first graders in North Shore across all 3 schools will participate in the first LEGO Robotics Challenge. And then they'll participate in the competitions. We have a series of new clubs structured around the pillars of our strategic plan. So there are clubs to support 21st century learning. There are clubs to support our continued social emotional learning in mindfulness and yoga and things like that. And we are adding a full-time health and wellness teacher to the elementary program next year, and a full-time school counselor to the elementary program for next year. So those are major. I believe that they will be major game changers in our ability to teach in a very systematic way, addressing issues of wellness. In special education, we are, the budget supports a full-day co-teaching model in grades K through 3. God bless you. In the 2021 budget, that will be expanded to grades K through 5. In technology, we're expanding our Chromebooks to an additional 2 grade levels, so we are inching closer to having a full implementation. We've also budgeted flexible classroom spaces in each of the 5 schools. So each school will pilot a classroom. So if you've been to some of our bond presentations, you've seen some of these flexible classroom designs, standing desks, bouncy balls, cubicles. So we'll be identifying 1 classroom in each school, and then outfitting that classroom with new furniture as a pilot to see where we'll go moving forward. She's not here, and I should have recognized her earlier, but I want to congratulate Dahlia Rodriguez in the Fine and Performing Arts Department. North Shore was named a Best Community for Music Education for the 3rd year in a row. I'm really proud of the program. That is not easy to earn, right? And lots of people apply for it, and not everybody gets it. And it's the support of we have really terrific teachers, wonderfully talented kids, supportive parents. There are questions in the application about the extent to which the program is supported by the board and the central office, and I want to thank the board for always being so generous and attentive to the fine and performing arts. It makes a big difference in our program. Excuse me, if you haven't seen it yet, North Shore CASA is sponsoring a program called Disconnect to Reconnect. Visit one of our local restaurants that are participating. They'll give you a bag. Put your phone in it when you're eating, and your kids put their phones in it when you're eating, and you actually get to engage with one another, eat and engage. So it's pretty neat. So I'm working with CASA on small and large group programming to address vaping in and among our students. It is becoming an increasingly overwhelming problem. Students are engaging at a younger age than we really ever thought was imaginable. And so we need to work together to combat this, and I plan to do so very aggressively over the upcoming weeks. Our search to find a new principal continues, and the first stage of the process will conclude tomorrow when the application portal closes. I checked this evening, we have exactly 99 applications, and starting tomorrow, Chris and Rob and I will start to screen resumes, identify a slate of candidates over the next and interview them over the next couple of weeks. We'll be ready to make a final recommendation to the board in May with a target to appoint the new principal on May 30th. Last week, Chris and I met with both his faculty and a group of his parents, and we put out a survey to get information on building a leadership profile for our next principal at Seacliff. So we're plugging along. Our pre-bond work is also moving along. Principals and directors have been working with us and our architects through concept and design process, and we'll be convening our Community Bond Advisory Committee during the week of April 8th. I will email the committee tomorrow to nail down that date and time. I want to welcome Barbara Graziano from Western Suffolk BOCES, who's here tonight. She is going to speak to the board and the community about our recent demographic and capacity studies related to pre-bond. And then for those of you who have done so and those of you who haven't done so, I want to thank you for registering your kindergartners, and thank you in advance for registering your kindergartners if you haven't done so yet. As of now, we have 142 registered students in kindergarten. For the North Shore class of, anybody know what What class? Quick math. Close, 32, 2032. We've projected 3 sections in each of the 3 schools. We think we're on target with those projections. As of tonight, we have 49 registered at Glen Head, 51 students registered at Glenwood Landing, and 42 at Seacliff. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then we also have other sections that we're watching very closely throughout the system. So there's a couple of hot sort of cohorts of kids that we've got them staffed in a certain way going into next year. If that changes, we've got contingency plans for really any kind of situation that may come up. So we'll keep you posted. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We are on to the report from the SGO.
Thank you. So quarter 3 is ending tomorrow for the high school.
Crazy.
And I know it's definitely crazy for everyone, especially the seniors, with only 1 quarter left in high school. So it's definitely, it's getting kind of real now. So on to the sports update. The spring season's just started, and I know a lot of our teams are off to a good start with the girls and boys lacrosse teams are both doing good, and the baseball team and the softball teams are doing good. So everyone's really getting into that. One thing for the SGO specifically, we are coming up with a fundraiser for Earth Day, where we are going to raise money we're not certain on what we're selling yet. We think it's probably going to be something maybe like lollipops that are globe related or something like that. And all the money that we raise, we're going to donate to a foundation which is going to, I forget the name of it, but it basically takes, for every $1 that you give, they plant the tree. So that's our idea for the Earth Day right now.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
as you touched on before with our amazing arts department, we had Pippin play at the high school this
crazy,
weekend,
yeah.
which was, as you said, fantastic. Congrats to Max Bros, who was just here, got congratulated. He was the lead. I hope you all got to see it. It really was a fantastic production. Very extraordinary, but it was
And Olivia,
very cool.
right, and his sister too, right?
Yeah.
Olivia was incredible.
It was very good. Also, along the lines, our robotics team competed at Hudson Valley this weekend. We made the playoffs. I don't think we won though, but we have another competition coming up this weekend at Hofstra. And I was very, very excited to hear of all the new STEM programs that are being added to our school district. Hopefully we'll be seeing now more of visits to the national competitions with the robotics team in the next few years then. But yeah, I was very excited to hear all the programming, because that's a very essential thing to our society now. In addition, the SGO is also working with CASA to put together student forums, which are now going to be a reoccurring SGO event, hopefully throughout the next few years and continuing on. This event, as I said last time, addresses health and wellness with an emphasis on substance abuse. They will be taking place in the next 2 weeks, starting this Tuesday. So very excited to execute those events. Finally, on the horizon, there's the yearly Teens Gotta Believe fundraiser is occurring in 2 weeks, and as well as the senior fashion show as the seniors take the stage again. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
See you next week. Sure.
I just want to acknowledge John's involvement and his leadership in terms of the focus groups. He has really taken this project on and been very active and given a lot of thought, and his input is just invaluable. So thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We are going to move on to regular business. The first action is the adoption of the budget. Dr. Giarrizzo, do you wish to address this?
As I talked about earlier, The budget is set at $107,799,954.90. It preserves all of our programming. It preserves all of our class sizes at reasonable rates. We have some very innovative programs that we're putting in place, most certainly related to our STEM program, to our health and wellness and social emotional learning. We also have, it supports strong PD for our entire system. I want to just thank there are a few thank yous I want to make. So firstly to Olivia Bawazzi, who she starts this process. Interestingly enough, she's already kind of harassing me about next year's budget. And we haven't even had the board adopt this year's budget. So this is her job. She lives and breathes this stuff, and I'm glad that she does. But we want to I want to thank her because she really does put a lot of effort into this. She knows where every single dollar is in this budget. Olivia is one of the she is the best business official I have ever worked with. And what makes her so unique is that she really understands why we exist, and that is to support instruction. So lots of business officials will give you a hard time about dollars and cents as it relates to funding things. Olivia will always ask if it has to, how it helps kids. And she finds ways to make things happen. So thank you very, very much for your good work. I want to thank Rob Klobicki for supporting the instructional program. This is it. This is your last one. Don't smile so much. But I do want to thank you for the leadership that you provide to the instructional program in the budget. Our principals, our budget developers, our teachers are very involved in this. We start this process in late September, early October, and it's, as you could likely imagine, here we are at the end of March, and we have to make sure that people understand it. So it really is a full year process. The support staff has been amazing. Lois Straber is Olivia's assistant, Betty Campy, Sophie Kolakowski. Everybody works very closely together to make all this happen. And on the board, you give us, a significant recognition note of thanks goes to the board. You have given us flexibility and structure to be fiscally responsible, but also really tuned into the needs of kids, and making sure and holding us accountable to a high standard of does the budget reflect our values? That question comes up a lot in our budget process. I believe that it does, and I want to thank the board for being mindful of that and making that a priority, because it is not inherent within every board. So I give you this. I give the board this budget with my strongest recommendation for and support, and I thank you very much for funding our schools in a way that help us to do very unique things. There are a few districts that are people. When I talk to people about a North Shore education and why they choose to live here, they choose to live here because of the unique nature of our schools. That we are not a test preppy, outcome-driven place. Our outcomes are strong because our process is stronger, and that is. It's just a wonderful place to lead schools. So I want to thank you all for the support of being able to fund them.
Well said. Thank you.
You're welcome.
With that being said, action item A, adoption of the 2019-22 budget. Do I have 2020 budget? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Are there other comments or questions before we vote? Trustee?
We don't have a very large audience, a wonderful audience, but not a very large crowd. So for those who may be watching at home, and certainly those who are here, you've been here a lot, you've heard us talking, but many people haven't. This is all in the budget. We represent the community in going through this process. We ask lots of questions here. We ask questions thanks to email pretty much every hour of the day whenever we're working at this and reading this and thinking this. And we invite everyone to look at this budget. We want an informed population to be looking at this, knowing what you're voting on. So please go to the website, please look at it, please come to these board meetings, please ask questions, because this is a community effort. So again, I thank Peter, I thank the administration, and please look further.
I'll add that I want to thank the board for going through hundreds of pages of budget documents, all of which are online, and you're all welcome to scrutinize as well. And I want to thank the administration for finding what I think is a very artful balance between significant cost increases that can't be avoided on one side and ways to meet new and emerging needs of our students on the other side. And I think we can all feel very positively about where we ended up on that.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Are you ready to vote? All right, all in favor? Thank you, trustees.
Thank you very much. Okay.
We are moving on to our next item, which is a discussion of our demographic and capacity study.
Absolutely. So, welcome, Barbara Graziano from Western Suffolk BOCES. Let's pull up your presentation for you.
Thanks. Lovely.
Good evening. Again, my name is Barbara Graziano. I'm the manager of research and planning at Western Suffolk BOCES. I'm very happy to be here. I hope you will find this informative. Am I in the way here?
No, you're fine.
All right, I'll start off just by quickly giving you a little background on the Office of School Planning and Research. Since 1985, we've completed more than 1,000 studies, not just for districts on Long Island, but we also work with many districts up in the Hudson Valley in Westchester, Rockland, Orange, Putnam, and other New York State counties. Some Nassau County districts that we are currently or have recently worked with include Garden City, Bethpage, Herricks, Roslyn, Jericho, East Meadow, and a few others there. I'll give you just a little bit of an idea of what is involved in a study. We start off by researching the demographics of the district, and that would include births. We look at not just, we look at both national and local birth trends, so that includes county, town, village, and births within the school district. We also look at housing trends. We analyze housing rates of housing turnover within the district, and also look at median sale prices. We also contact local municipalities to find out if there's any if there are any new proposals that might impact school district enrollment. We also look at population trends. We research lots of Census Bureau data and analyze various trends, including changes to the ethnic structure of the district, any changes to the age structure, as well as a range of other socioeconomic and household factors. And the last one there is non-public school enrollment. Obviously, that could impact district enrollment in some cases, so we look at the trends there as well. Then we analyze enrollment in the district, and we look at trends over the last 10 years. And that would include migrations from grade to grade. In other words, does the district tend to gain, lose, or just maintain students as a cohort moves from one grade to the next in the following year? And the last one there is birth persistence analysis. This is where we analyze the relationship between kindergarten enrollment and the number of births 5 years prior to each historical year. We then develop a kindergarten birth ratio, which is used to project kindergarten enrollment. And those ratios reflect children who move into or out of the district after birth, as well as any children who may be attending non-public schools. These are just a few of the research sources that we utilize. We get a lot of our data from the Census Bureau. Also, New York State Education Department, New York State Department of Health, New York State Office of Real Property Services, among others, Pew Research Center, local planning boards, and also school district records. I'm often asked about the accuracy of our projections. Overall, enrollment projections produced by Western Suffolk BOCES generally fall within a 4% margin of error. However, you should understand that projections fall into 3 categories of reliability. The first would be projections that are based on students already enrolled in the system are the most reliable. The next category would be projections that are based on documented births, and those are slightly less reliable. And then the last is projections based on estimates of future births, and those would be the least reliable. And of course, the most reliable projections are those calculated for the periods closest in time, particularly for the first 5-year period. Of course, it goes without saying that with each year that goes by, the projections will be a little less reliable because things change, things happen, trends change, that at the time the study was done may have been unforeseeable. So also I want to mention that the study that we did that you have a copy of, that includes projections going out 10 years. However, for the purposes of this presentation, I just included 5-year projections because those are the, like as I mentioned, most reliable for planning purposes. We'll start off just by looking at the basic population numbers. As you can see on this slide, there was an increase of approximately 1.8% between 2000 and 2010, followed by an additional increase of approximately 400 people, or 2.5% between 2010 and 2017. The next slide shows you the changes to the age structure within the district for the period from 2000 through 2017. As you can see, the preschool, or those under age 5, that segment has decreased from 6.3% in 2000 to approximately 4.5% in 2017. Also, the young adult, the 20 to 39 segment, has decreased when you compare 2000 to, there was a significant increase between 2000 and 2010, although that has increased between 2010 and 2017. And this, you will see, is reflective of increased housing in the district, which you will see in a few moments. However, the 40 to 64 segment has grown when you compare 2000 to 2017. So there have been changes there as far as the age structure. The next slide shows you Nassau and Suffolk births, and as you can see, both have been declining over this 20-year period of 1996 through 2016. In Suffolk, there's been slightly more than a 22% decline and a 19.4% decline in Nassau County. This shows you births within the North Shore School District. And as you can see, for the years 2003 through 2007, births ranged within 133 to 176 per year. However, between 2010 and 2015, births were at a slightly lower level, 126 to 129 births during that period. However, 2016, which is the last year that we have data for, unfortunately, births did come up again to 133. But overall, births are not expected to return to the level that they were going back before the recession and even before that. This shows you housing sales within the district. As you can see, housing turnover was at its low point in 2009 when 110 homes were sold. However, since then, housing activity has increased. It reached a peak for this period of 212 units sold in 2016. However, in 2017, it did drop off somewhat to 187 units, but obviously is still well above that low point in 2009, around the recession. This slide shows you median sale prices within the district. And again, in 2009, the median sale price in the district was at a low of $562,000. Since then, the median price has increased up to $718,000 in 2017. And this compares to the Nassau County median home sale price of $525,000. Next, we'll take a look at enrollment trends. This shows you Nassau County enrollment for the period of 2007 through 2017, during which time there was a decrease of 3.3%, or approximately 6,700 students. As you can see, enrollment has also decreased within the North Shore School District during the period 2008 through 2017, during which time there was a decrease of approximately 10%, or 300 students. However, we are projecting that moving forward during the next 5 years that enrollment will stabilize and there will be just a small increase of 27 students during that period.
Excuse me, Barbara.
Yes.
Just click forward 2, please.
No,
No, on the slides.
Oh, sorry.
One more. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You're there.
Kindergarten enrollment. As you can see, kindergarten enrollment fluctuated during the 10-year historical period, from a high of 176 births in 2008 down to a low of 152 students this year.
Sorry, still one behind. Are you showing us kindergarten next? There we go.
Just want to see if you're paying attention. Sorry about that.
No, it's very nice.
By the way, the low kindergarten this year corresponds to a very low birth level in 2013. If you go back and look, there were only 106 district births that year, and 5 years later, you have a low kindergarten. We're projecting that during the next 5 years, kindergarten enrollment will range within 171 to 189 students.
Makes sense. We put 140 something.
This slide shows you enrollment change over the last 10 years. As you can see in the elementary configuration, there was a loss of 217 students, or approximately 16%. The middle grades lost 92 students, or 13%, and the high school grades remained stable. Over the next 5 years, we're projecting that the elementary grades will remain stable. There'll be a small gain in the middle grades and a loss of approximately 100 students in the high school grades. Some factors that are impacting enrollment. On average, the district gains or maintains students in transition to most grades. However, average losses are noted to 9th grade as students leave the district to attend non-public schools. Also, losses through displacement, meaning that smaller kindergarten classes are replacing larger graduating 12th grade classes. This displacement has occurred in each of the last 10 years, and this trend is expected to continue with losses of between 21 to 55 students each year through 2023. However, the losses through displacement will be minimized by the gains in grade-to-grade migration each year. This slide illustrates the displacement. The top line, if you see, in 2013, the district graduated 223 12th graders, and then the following year in 2014, the district enrolled 169 kindergarteners. So there's a difference of 54 students there, a loss of 54 students. And as you can see, there were losses all the way through up to this year, and moving forward for next year, we're projecting that there will be displacement of 37 students, and that will continue up through 2023. This slide shows you the actual and projected enrollment for each elementary school. And as you can see that, again, enrollment in each of the schools is projected to remain stable during the next 5 years. Next, we'll look at the facilities section of the study. And as we talk about capacity, some may say, what is that? Well, the New York State Education Department defines operating capacity as the total number of students a building can reasonably and efficiently house based on the district's class size policy and the number, size, and current use of the rooms. And I want to note that you will see that the capacities are not at 100%, and they should not be at 100%. It would be, you have to keep in mind that each grade, each classroom in each school will not have the exact number that it can hold every year. So capacity would never be, it would be unrealistic to expect capacity to be at 100%, utilization to be at 100% of capacity. All right, this slide shows for each school the operational capacity and then the current utilization. So the 3 elementary schools, Glen Head is at 71% utilization, Glenwood Landing at 80%, Seacliff at 72%. And then the middle school and high school are at 83 and 81%. And then it shows you the range. The last column shows you the projected utilization range based on the projected enrollment for the next 5 years. So what these numbers generally are indicating is that the schools fall within, they're fairly well, the space is fairly well utilized, particularly in the middle school and high school. You generally wouldn't want to have utilization numbers higher than those, because then that limits your scheduling flexibility and so forth. So based on the programs offered in this district, which I have to say, when my team and I came and toured the schools, we were, very honestly, we were very impressed with the programs that are offered here between foreign language in the elementary schools and enrichment programs and so forth. We all said, gee, we wouldn't mind going to school here, but
Filling up fast.
Pardon?
It's filling up fast.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So anyway, the next slide shows the projected elementary sectional needs. And as you can see, they're very close. Glen Head right now has 17 sections projected to need 18 by 2023. Glenwood Landing right now has 27, is projected to need 27 in 2023, and Seacliff is projected to need one less section. Just to summarize, during the 10-year historical period, there was an enrollment decrease of 300 students, or approximately 10%, with losses recorded in the elementary and middle grades and stability noted in the high school grades. Enrollment is expected to remain relatively stable during the next 5 years. Stability is expected in the elementary grades, and a small gain is projected in the middle grades. However, a loss is expected in the high school as smaller cohorts move through the system. And based on current enrollment trends, all district buildings will have adequate space to accommodate the core and support programs that are currently being offered in the North Shore School District. So, questions?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that presentation. That was really a terrific summary of a tremendous amount of data that we're feeling very dependent on at this point as we make our decisions going forward. I certainly have some follow-up questions, but let me defer. Go ahead. Anyone? I can start if you wish, but Dave, do you have something?
She actually answered the only question I had, which was the birth rate
correlation.
So yeah, great. We get a lot of presentations, many good presentations, but few as data-filled as yours, so I really appreciate that. That's really, and that's from my perspective, that's a great
I'm just going to show everyone that we've got, there's a tremendous amount of backup data that goes into this.
So I had a couple of small questions. So capacity is based on current utilization. So the way kids learn in 1950 or 1970 or 2019 is somewhat different.
Correct.
So it's based on the way the school is teaching kids right now, and so as we've seen certainly a change in the way our kids learn to more hands-on learning, and
absolutely, yeah.
So the cohort, the capacity study doesn't really take that into account. Like the way kids will be learning 5 years from now could be very different from now. It doesn't really go there, per se.
Well, in other words, we're looking at the programs that are offered now. Yeah, if you're offering very different programs in 5 years, then the capacity could change.
So it's an analysis of current activity as opposed to trends in education, et cetera. Okay. Sarah, you want to go? And I'll come back.
Well, because I had something that's sort of similar. So you did talk about how capacity can't be a 100% because the kids won't magically show up in exactly the right number and exactly the right grades and interests, et cetera.
You're not going to have, in other words, in every kindergarten class, you're not going to have exactly 22 students in each school, and
So, could you talk more about how to think about what is kind of 100% capacity? Because at the middle school it shows that we're going to approach 91% capacity. Is that a threshold where you start to think that's high? What benchmark should we be using? How do we think about that?
It's difficult to give you an actual number because of, it can vary from district to district because of every district may offer different programs. Generally, though, once you get above 90%, scheduling flexibility can be impacted.
Okay.
Especially if you have a variety of programs. You know, the fewer programs you have, obviously, then the less complicated it is. But
So like in the middle school where we're trying to offer a lot of electives through their cycle counts, that's going to come into conflict with that 90% capacity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's if at 91%, I would not recommend that. Oh well, that you would say, oh my gosh, now we have to add space. But it just becomes maybe a little bit more challenging. If you were at 100%, then you know, you might want to think about
it's really
other alternatives. Yeah.
Okay.
Want me to jump in?
Yeah.
So displacement between the outgoing 12th grade versus the incoming kindergarten. One of the things that we have been asked about a lot is what happens to our students, sort of the progression of those students moving, you know, those classes. And so I had asked the board, I had asked the administration for about, I guess, 20 years of historical data that I had kind of analyzed and looked through, and I looked through what happens to each class. So rather than look at the overall population, what, you know, a student comes in here as a kindergartner, 5 or 6 years old, and then that student and that cohort, how they add or lose students. And the numbers, which I had a lot of data, shows that between K through, and I can share this with the board after today or soon. K through 5, we add an average of 21 and a half students during that journey. So for a particular class that comes in, there are 21 and a half more students at the end. And I would love to know if that's from students moving in, if that's from students who maybe spend some of those earlier years in private schools and then come back. That would be interesting. 5th through 8, we add 1.5 students. And then the 8 to 9 is the big transition, where of course we lose a lot of students to private schools. And I would be curious to know the comparison between our rate versus other districts, because certainly many students, many parents and families plan all along for 9th grade to be the year that they go to a prep school of some sort. And that we typically lose about 12 students. And then we gain back around 4 between 9 through 12. So overall, we are gaining about 15 students, if you take everything into account, from where we start. So that kindergarten number, the fact that we're displacing them by losing them in 12th and then gaining a smaller number.
Yeah, each cohort, you're absolutely right. You're picking up just about every year.
Yeah.
So that, that cohort that just say maybe was 100 students in kindergarten now is 125 by the time they get to 12th grade. They graduate, then you come back to a smaller kindergarten again.
Exactly. But, and we had some lower birth rates that are coming through, and those kindergarten classes are coming up a little bit.
Yes.
You would talk about the 3 different categories of reliability of projections: current students, documented births, and then estimates of future births, which, yeah, that makes sense. That will be the hardest to guess.
That's very honestly, that's when it gets tricky.
How does...
and unfortunately, New York State, usually we get preliminary birth numbers at the end of August for the prior year. I don't know what they're doing this year, but we don't have them yet. And I keep emailing, and they keep saying, we're working on it. So anyway, that's why we don't have birth data past 2016, which is driving us crazy right now. But anyway.
And so the question of either families with students or families who are planning on having future students, does that factor into that number, and what's the reliability of that degree of analysis if it's undertaken? In other words, so this district, based on the home prices that you put up there and based on the population growth, because we've outpaced Town of Oyster Bay every one of those decades that you analyzed by quite a bit in some cases. Stands to reason people are moving here, and that home prices are doing well because this is a desirable place to live, at least with Town of Oyster Bay and Nassau County overall.
And we, I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to say, we do take that into account with the migration averages that we use to project grade level enrollment going forward. And we did take the housing into account, and in some cases, in some grade levels, we did use a little bit higher average in anticipation of that continuing, although we are seeing now that in some districts, such as this one where there is a high median sale price, that is starting now to drop off because it's a lot of younger families are being priced out, and maybe now are looking toward even though they'd like to be in North Shore, you know, maybe they just can't afford it, so they're looking to go a little bit further east, maybe, where they can get more affordable.
And I think for me, that's a great launching point for maybe the district doing some analysis, because I think in general, there's an eastward movement.
Yes.
So maybe some students here, some families here move eastward. But I think if we look, and it's only anecdotally, but I think we can probably get some more concrete data on that. New families that are moving in are also moving eastward from our western neighbors, from Queens, from Brooklyn, from Manhattan. That's where a lot of and also from outside the U.S. That's where we're seeing a lot of families moving in here. So I'd kind of like to get some more info on that.
And you did some survey data, though, yes?
Yes.
You surveyed the new
Yes.
home buyers, and maybe you want to talk more about that then.
Yes, we sent, and the copy of the survey is, I think it's Appendix C. Anyway, it's in the back of the study. And we received about 30 responses, I believe it was, and what we found is that a lot of people indicated they were moving from Queens or Manhattan, and yes.
And the other thing I noticed is in terms
For
of
the
that.
schools.
Yeah, just in your experience, I assume this is the case, and I remember this kind of growing up, and I see it now. Communities tend to evolve in a slow wave. So for example, the aging of our population here is stark, and that there's been a low turnover in homes. People have lived here for a long time. That eventually has to, I assume, change and turn over again.
What we're seeing is that it is starting to change, you know, because a lot of the millennials, well, for one thing, they, you know, after the recession, they were having trouble finding jobs.
Sure.
A lot of them have a lot of student loan debt, unfortunately. And some of these factors were forcing them to continue to live at home longer than prior generations had. So, and that, you know, kind of has that whole impact. They weren't buying houses, you know, and the first, you know, home ownership rate was down, and anyway, but now we're seeing that the economy is better, obviously, jobs, they're able to find better paying jobs, I guess. So we find like Lower Westchester, Nassau County, we're not seeing the changes yet so much in Suffolk County. Suffolk County, we have a number of districts we've just recently done, and I mean, like, oh my God, they're still just
I assume that, I mean, not to presume, but the density out there is still much lower. Whereas here, we're, not just here in North Shore, but here in Nassau County, we're filling up.
Yes. But again, I think also what we're starting to see a little bit of is that, you know, especially Western Nassau County, they're starting to get priced out, you know, so.
Thank you.
I wanted to, this made me think, when we look at the district, there are a number of properties that are likely to be developed into condos or townhomes over the next several years. Is it an appropriate use of the capacity study when you're looking, say, at the elementary schools, which ones are hitting higher capacity levels, in terms of thinking about where the new developments are going to hit, and whether we need to start thinking about redrawing which residential areas the elementary schools would?
Well, it depends on what type of development there would be. You know, a lot of the development that we're seeing now is geared toward young professionals, quote unquote, that, you know, those who are not ready to have children yet. A lot of the development is near the train stations. We have seen very few of, you know, the developments of single-family 3 and 4 bedroom homes that, you know, we've seen in the past, and those are the ones that produce
that
the children. Yeah,
that is absolutely true.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I was like, I mean, although it looks like we'll probably have some of that too. Like, you know, we're going to have 17 new single-family homes built near the water tower, which is in the Glenwood Landing School, which looks like it has the highest capacity right now. So I'm trying to think about
82, 84%.
right, how you plan for all that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and that's something that's come up, is the idea that in our community, I think it would be something we could all agree on. People like to go to school where their community is. You know, we still have a vision of kids on bikes and people, you know, being very community based. And so the question of shifting that is fraught. On the other hand, if you have one school that is full, and in addition to those homes, there's this, as Lisa and I know well, this Glen Harbor property that could, 67 new residences, the Engineers Club in that area. Also, it seems there's a lot of stuff in Glenwood Landing that could really bump that up. And as you said, it's already at the highest, because right now they're pretty even.
Right, and I didn't realize that school had the highest capacity at this point.
Those are my questions.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, it's slightly wonky. So the projections seem to rely on the county birth rate. But it doesn't look to me like there's a...
Well, yes and no. We look at the county birth rates, but we do place a lot of emphasis on the district births.
So, right, so there's the page, like the third page of Appendix A, I think, that shows like the county birth rate, and it creates the ratio between the county birth rate and the kindergarten enrollment 5 years earlier, and then it creates, it shows the ratio in each year, and then it shows the historical average is that 0.0119 number, which is pretty much how it's projected out. But it doesn't look like there's a very strong correlation between the county birth rate and our kindergarten enrollment. And so I know you use other factors, and obviously you've indicated all the places at which it gets harder to project. And I think at some point in the report you talk about like a 4% margin of error. So I was curious about the relationship between the 4% margin of error and the fact that the correlation between the county births and the kindergarten enrollment wasn't particularly strong, and how we think about that.
Well, I think generally the 4%, like the first several years, most often it's less than 4%. And when you get into the fourth year, then that's when we start to hit more of that 4% range. We do, now on that sheet you're looking at, we do have to look at county because we don't have, once we get past, like right now, we don't have birth data past 2016. So we're working, where are we?
I'm not sure there's another good number to use. Like, there's a closer correlation with school district births, but those numbers are so small that I would feel like you wouldn't want to rely on those either.
So we do projections for the county births, which you see on that page that you were looking at. Yeah, we really can't do projections on district births. Yeah, the numbers are so small it would, So that's why we do have to still maintain that county correlation, because once we get past where we have the district actual births, then we have to look at the county projections. But before that point, like up through 2016 where we have district births, we really rely on that more because we find that there's really generally, not always, generally a pretty strong correlation there. We also look at just just the raw numbers of how many, let me pull it out. Like for the years 2015, 16, and 17, the number of what we call move-in K, the number of number extra of, how am I saying this? The number over and above the district births is what I'm trying to say, was 63, 61, and 61. Those were the highest of the historical period. Earlier in the historical period, like there were some numbers where like there were only 16 more kids who came over the birth number.
Right, so, but there's always that gain, right? If people, the number of kids born in the district, we're going to have more by the time they hit kindergarten. They don't run away before kindergarten, they come in.
In fact, every year. Now, and that's not true in every district. A lot of times, some districts have every year have fewer kids. I don't know where they go, but.
But they came here,
Yeah.
yeah, all of them.
So, but anyway, in the last few years along, which correlates with the housing, the increase in housing, is that you've had greater numbers of kids coming in over and above the district birth numbers. So, you know, we look at those numbers very carefully.
I was going to say, in terms of like a very long-term view where things get very sketchy. So with this study, we can say that, like, you know, over the past 10 years, the enrollment dropped by 10%. But the current enrollment is still higher than it was in 2000 and much higher than it was in 1990, which starts to give us like more of a sense of the presumably sort of cyclical effect of birth rate. So I was just, it's much more hypothetical, but given your line of work, if you have any thoughts about how to think very long-term about the cyclical nature of enrollment in districts, if you have any background there.
Well, as far as the births, most experts would say, you know, births are not going back to where they were because, you know, obviously there are very few still, you know, compared to years ago, there are nowhere near the number of stay-at-home moms. And, you know, a lot of women are working, a lot of women are focusing on careers. And those days of, you know, 4 or 5 kids in a lot of families are just, that's not happening anymore. So therefore, obviously that has an impact on school enrollment. So I don't see that cycle coming back to, you know, bigger families and therefore more children coming into the district.
Yeah, please, yeah, I wish you would.
This is just a great opportunity for us that you're here because you're.
We're so excited.
Yeah, you have a real wealth of knowledge in these things.
Study, right,
there was something I had had in the back of my head as sort of an axiom about Long Island, which is that we have one of the most sedentary populations in the country. In Parkers, we're on this island, and it's hard to get out, and people just sort of stay here. But I want
harder and harder to get.
I know. Yeah. But in your experience with other districts, I noticed that certainly the numbers, the communities are changing, even our community. The backgrounds of people who live here, the change in ethnic and religious and national backgrounds is certainly changing. So that would indicate that there is a shift in population on Long Island. Is that something you're seeing overall, or is Long Island still very much a cloister to some degree?
Oh, no, we're definitely seeing changes. I usually do include also a slide for the ethnic structure, but there hasn't been, I did not include it here because it wasn't as much of a factor here as in some other districts. But there are some districts where it's dramatic.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, but not so much, so far at least, not so much here.
Okay.
Any other?
Another thing that's interesting that we're seeing, you know, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we were seeing that districts with a heavy or, you know, a population changing toward a much more Hispanic population, that's where the increases are. Now it's more predominantly white districts where we're seeing gains in enrollment. So that's been a very interesting shift that I don't think most anticipated. You know, so yeah.
That's the fun of data. It tells you what it tells you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. If you have any other questions,
You should be careful what you say. We're really very inquisitive people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to say BOCES was, obviously, you have a very thorough report here with more information than we've ever had before. So we went into this thinking that, we made this recommendation to the board as we were going into our pre-bond work. So to the extent that we needed to know what our demography is, what we can anticipate as we plan our instructional spaces. And so the net takeaway from most of this is our enrollment is fairly stable over the next period of time, and our use of space is okay. So I've worked in districts where the capacity was up in that high 90s range, and you have to really think about building additions to accommodate your enrollment. That's not where we are. So that is a good place to go into our good information to have as we go into any kind of bond discussions. So we may want to use our space differently, which may cause us to make certain decisions, but there isn't a pressing need to put a wing on any of our spaces at this point to accommodate enrollment. But it also, to me, sometimes people ask me, why can't we just close a building and consolidate?
No, that's,
The reaction was great.
no, it's not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's how
You heard it right here.
that's how we feel as well. So
I feel like that's a meeting where she goes.
yeah, there's no space to.
No, there's, like that's not even anything, it's not an option, not anything worth discussing, because, you would be, no, you can't.
Okay.
So thank you for a very thorough job, and
you're very welcome.
if we have any questions from the board, please let us know. We'll make sure we get you the answers for them moving forward.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And with that,
You're welcome.
we're up to comments from
Comments
the
from
public.
the public, yes.
Public, if you have any questions or comments or thoughts you want to share with the board, if you would approach the podium, please, and give us your name and town of residence.
Hi, Rob Mazzella, Glenhead. Just, I guess, a question for Dave, actually, since he seems like he was looking into this a little bit. The decline in students from 7th grade to 8th grade this year, was that an anomaly, or was that indicative of a trend?
So when we get enrollment reports, we get them in October and June, and the October is sort of a newer thing, only lasts 7 or 8 years. So I've been looking at June to June, and we haven't had our June yet.
Okay.
So I haven't had that one yet.
Because I know there was a significant drop this year. I don't know about other years. I think anywhere from like 10 to 15 somewhere.
It wasn't an anomaly from any other year we looked at it.
Okay.
It was not. It was very
But you're
consistent.
talking about from
7th to 8th.
9.
Not
He's
not
talking
8th
about
to
7
9th.
to 8.
I know what you're, I
okay.
understand. Yeah.
Oh, so that's fairly typical?
Yes.
Okay. It was surprising to me that many people would leave before the start of 8th grade, but I was just curious about that.
Yeah, the migration from grade to grade wasn't statistically significant. It might have been a few kids more than in past years, but we definitely looked at that. It wasn't.
Did you look at, were they moving, or were they just changing schools?
Yes, we did look at it. I don't recall.
Okay.
We didn't talk about that, right? She indicated that there was more down in the study but it's between like 9 and 10% of our district residents end up at private schools versus the county average of 12%.
Right.
Okay. And then one question for Olivia, her favorite question. The health insurance line item.
Yeah.
Haven't asked in a while.
Oh, yeah, I'm disappointed.
I just went onto the website and I couldn't find the actual expenditure for 2017-18 for account 9046800-0. So it wasn't anywhere there. There was a 5-year expenditure report.
Correct.
But it didn't have the actuals. It had a bunch of complicated stuff that, even as a former accountant, I was having trouble trying to piece it all together. There were like transfers in and projected expenditures and a projected fund balance, so there was no final.
I think that was only for the 18-19 school year.
I mean, it was 17-18. The 5-year expenditure report stops with actuals for 16-17. The school year 16-17 was the last year that the 5-year actuals were on the website.
Can you call me tomorrow so that we can go over it together?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pull it at the website and then we'll go over it together.
Okay. So I was just looking at it, I updated the spreadsheet I handed out a couple of years ago. It looked like the expense line was fairly stable for a 4-year period at roughly $7 million. And then in 15-16, it went up by 900,000. 16-17, it went up by another 900,000. And then trying to piece together what I found from 17-18, it was another 900,000, it looks like. And then, this year, obviously, 18-19 is not there yet. But just, again, we were averaging, there was a 4-year period where we were averaging being over budgeted by about 900,000. If the numbers that I kind of plugged in for 17-18 and projected for 18-19 and 19-20, just based on the budget increase percentage, it looks like you'd be over budgeted by about 400,000. Again, just I've asked previously, before you were here, for someone to kind of take a look at that account to see. It has been an account that has historically been over budgeted, to just see if there was still continuing reasons to do that. That was
Can I go over the same story?
Yeah.
That I go through.
No,
health insurance, as I said, is they give us the rate on a calendar year basis. So when I'm budgeting in October, I don't know what the rate will be. I budgeted in October of 18. I don't know what the rate will be in January of 20. So what we do is that the business officials get together and say, what do you project the rate to be? And then we take the best estimate that we can come, because apart from salaries, health insurance is the most expensive
it's a big number.
cost in the district. And one mistake can tank the whole budget. So using the conservative principle, you hedge on making sure that you have enough money to cover the health insurance cost. This year was a prime example. We thought that they would come around 8, 5, 10%. They came up with a 2% increase. Because the stock market was doing very well. We do not know what will happen next year. So it is a very big, but it's always good to hedge on the conservative side, because the worst would be not to have money to cover it.
Understood, but again, that period where you were running $1 million over might be considered to be a little too conservative. Now at 400,000, if what I'm doing is accurate, 400,000 would be a much better place to be, in my opinion.
It's almost impossible to be 100%
no, understood.
in that category.
There will always be a degree
because there are other factors that come in. We have the Affordable Care Act, and then how many people are meeting the hours per week. We have to take all that into consideration. And the key piece in North Shore is we have a number of employees, over 99 employees, who declined health insurance. They can walk in any time. And each one of them, the employer portion is $22,000 for the family plan. So it's a huge cost. And you have to, and if I take 22,000 and I'm off by 400,000, I'm talking about 20 employees. So it's something that is very difficult, but it's better to have a little bit more rather than
understood. So if you could send me the number, that'd be great for
I'll call you.
the 17-18. Also, just a note, I believe it was also the 17-18 budget may not have been there online. There were all the other years were there, but I think that one was missing.
We'll make sure that gets up. It should be up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Do we have any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to action item C, as soon as I move this big notebook out of the way, which is personnel. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. And next is action item D, which is the approval of the budget transfers. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. Action E is the approval of the health services contracts. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you, trustees. Action F, we have the approval of the agreement between North Shore and Nels Hope BOCES for
Summer school.
Summer school. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. Action G is the resolution for an intermunicipal cooperative agreement for transportation services. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Thank you. Action H is the approval of an IEP for special ed. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
A second? Questions? All in favor? Thank you. Next, we have board committee reports. Does anyone have a? Okay.
We have a date for that. April, thank you, Betty.
I'm sorry, what was that for?
Policy.
The policy committee.
The policy.
Yeah, got it.
So, as we said last session, LAC was not able to meet. Construction steering did meet. Very briefly, the mansard roof work will be done over spring break, hopefully. The cleanup of the entry plan around the Victorian house and some of the shrubs and the new sidewalk to pull the kids into a safer path will need SED approval perhaps, but the high school PTO is going to help support that project, and hopefully that can keep on schedule. They're still working on the wiring project for our district. I guess Seacliff is well underway, and the other ones are still waiting on SED approval. So that's where we are with that. The kind of a procedural thing, but important thing is the bond steering committee will be folded into the construction steering committee. Pretty much the same people. We just had to bring Rob onto that, and then we're complete. So we won't be meeting separately anymore. We'll be meeting together because it's the same trustees and representatives and architects and engineers and the assistant superintendents and our superintendent. All done. The EPC is an important part of this, the energy performance contract. The RFP has been completed, and we're going to be getting bids on that because we really want that to be a big part of the bond, both for being greener and being more efficient, and having it be revenue neutral over an 18-year or less period. And I believe that is all we need to go for.
I do. Well, we do have an update since we last met. Actually, this week we received state approval on the capital reserve projects. So all the large space air conditioning projects and the high school.
Great, that's terrific.
That came this week. We're already out to bid. So
terrific.
It is not likely that those projects will be completed before the end of this year, but we're hoping to get those awarded and in time to get some work done over the summer and hopefully off the ground for the fall.
Terrific.
Certainly a comfort to be on our time frame, not Albany's time frame.
Well, that's true. So I want to thank the board for your willingness to engage in the third-party review. That was the expedited process. So we had these back so fast. By the time, if we had not done this, the monies that we would have spent in escalation costs alone would have exceeded the monies that we spent to expedite the process. So it was
I think easily, yeah.
well worth the money, and we've been really pleased with the process. So that's a relief.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Right. Wellness was also, should have met, but was rescheduled. I don't know why.
Monday.
Yes, but I'm saying we were supposed to get met, but they changed it. Any other committees that?
We had a safety
Anyone?
committee.
Oh, Safety Inc. Yes. I'm looking through them. I don't know if we had anything. There were more updates to the security component, the new aides being hired, updates from Mr. Oldham in terms of the drills, all the drills going on through the district. You gave a slight update on the budget vote locale.
We're ordering the uniforms.
Ordering of the uniforms. Yes, thank you. Some of the same issues keep coming back in terms of traffic on Glen Cove Avenue and reaching out to our county electeds, which I think a member of the parent member had offered to communicate in a civic way. And through POP officers, there was some concern about some of the traffic dealing with our traffic person at the light here between the high school and the middle school. So I think those are going to be addressed. Could I make a suggestion? Do you think it would be possible if we could change the structure of the projects going forward? How we're listing. We seem to keep going through all of these, and it seems like there's a lot of things that are closed out that I think it would make the committee run a little bit more efficiently in terms of information sharing once a month.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk.
We all,
Yes.
Okay, I think I have, and I know
We're all
there's,
there.
I think there's a sample one, but I think that we can create more of a project management, sort of a summary that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Bob Oldham is going to take that committee over starting next month. And so it's a good time to think about a change. So
Excellent.
If you, he is doing we have him 2.5 days a week. So knock on wood, we've been lucky that we haven't had a serious need for him on a day when he's not here. Any events that we've had we've just been lucky. But he's doing a really terrific job.
Yes, it seems like he does. He's very informative at the meetings.
Yep.
And they're nice collaborative meetings with representatives from all around the district. So, but I think that would be a major improvement.
Right. So you know what? Let's find some time to talk over the next day or two. Let's get some of your ideas. I'll bring them back.
Thanks.
Sure.
we're up to
Old business.
old business? Anyone? New business. I'll mention one thing under new business, which is Peter sent us a very informative article about SED issuing regulations on student data privacy.
Yes.
Which I read, and that will be an incredibly daunting task. It is probably very much worthwhile in a lot of ways. I'm not going to say in every detail, but I'm curious about our plan. When you're talking about contracts to protect student data privacy with every company that our students interact with, we have, with the use of the Chromebooks and with the Google Classroom, we have a tremendous number of things we do that are fantastic opportunities for students in terms of, say, using online databases and research tools, but they all very clearly, as you access them, say that the site is both not secure and needs access to your Google account, right? Because it's all, a lot of it, to make it worthwhile to the students, it's premised on the idea that you can do your research and then save an article to your Google Drive. So it requires that integration. And I know, in my house, I have like, hey, look at this. Is it okay if I click this? Because it's saying, it's not secure. So, and I mean, I'm sure I've only seen like a tiny handful of the instances in which what we're talking about. So
We'll get an
I'm
update.
concerned. I think it's daunting, and I know we've used some BOCES services
Uh-huh.
to deal with this in the past, so I'm really hoping that's our path forward, but.
Yes,
you know.
so why don't I, so we'll give Elliot some time to sort through these regulations, and then we'll get an update from him for the board, which we would have done anyway.
I just want to acknowledge the complexity.
It is highly complex, yes.
And I mean, I think there are parts of it that may be overreach, but in general.
No, but people want to make.
It's important.
It is, yes.
Other new business?
Yes, I have a question.
Rich?
It came out, I guess about a week ago, about budget and trustee elections in the county in terms of providing multilingual copies.
Yes.
Looking into this.
Yeah, so I can tell you where we are with that. So there is, so we received guidance from the Department of Justice that communities must, if there's a certain percentage of families who speak a language, that your budget and trustee documents have to be provided in that language. North Shore, our community does not, but we have to follow the lead of the county. So all of our budget documents, all of our budget material documents have to be translated into Spanish. So you'll see anything related to budget, the ballot, the parts of the newsletter that are related to the trustees and the budget is all in English and in Spanish.
Now, how will that impact, so the ballot, I would think that would include absentee ballots?
All of it.
And Meet the Candidates Night in terms of the
notices.
Well, right, the notices from the district, Meet the
Right.
Candidates is not a district event.
I know that,
So,
but in terms of promoting it, the video, I know last year there was, I know we don't do it as coordinating council because that used to be
well,
my old hat.
the video for Meet the Candidates is actually League of Women Voters who controls it.
Right. We don't have to translate the Meet the Candidates night.
No.
Anything that comes from the district to the voters does regarding the vote and the trustee election. So anything on our website, any of our documents, the ballot. So Betty has actually been working on the ballot, and so we send the ballot, then we have to send it to BOCES, it gets translated, and then we have to lay it out in the way that we need to lay that out.
So
But it's the law.
It's, so just so I understand, these things
And
are
an expense.
available in Spanish, or every document is going to have both versions on it?
Every document will have both versions on it.
Okay.
So for example, Shelley and I were looking at, so when I go to do coffees at people's houses, I usually have like a one-page, here's some, by the numbers, programmatic highlights, here are the tax piece. So normally that's one piece of paper, back to back. This year it's back to back, turn it over, Spanish, back to back. Okay, so, and then we're doing the same thing with our newsletter. So our whole newsletter doesn't have to be in Spanish, but the parts of the newsletter that relate to the budget and the election and all that, that all has to be in Spanish. So, everybody in the county is having to deal with this. To your point, Sarah, it is, it is absolutely, it comes at an extra cost. We're trying to consolidate some services. We're glad that BOCES is providing the service for us. And, it's another, the intention of it is good, right? So we want to make sure that elections are accessible to all, to people who, as well. So, but we've been, less me, but Betty and Shelley have been very much on this for many months.
Right, and I really appreciate their efforts from what I've heard of how much time they put into trying to understand what the law requires and how to comply with it and to make sure we're doing that. That's important.
And we've gotten excellent guidance from Fraser Feldman. So one of the, I think she's an associate, Laura. Yeah. She's been terrific about making sure that, we're doing what we need to do, that we're getting good guidance, that she's looking at our documents, and guiding us all along the way. So, and we have, we've talked about Meet the Candidate tonight. We've all these different things. So thank you to Laura as well. Welcome. You're welcome.
I have some comments. For structure of the meeting, I'm wondering if I was doing a little research for some other districts, and Great Neck does something interesting in terms of a student representation. They don't just invite the two high school representatives. They basically have opportunities where other buildings come and represent their building to the board at the Board of Education meeting. And I'm wondering if it's something we might like to think about in terms of equity amongst our buildings in the district to come and present the state of their buildings from the student perspective. And I know we have many, many very articulate students in each building that I think it would be an opportunity for them to come and present before us and show us their skills in doing that.
I like that idea a lot.
I know the GEO representative at North Shore, and I can give you a little history because I went here. The GEO representative was a very serious position to come before the board, and it was part of an election, of SGO elections outside of regular class elections. And it came with some serious, it wasn't just we're having a car wash this week. Not to say that those aren't important pieces of information for us to hear and that our kids are doing good pro-social things. And every year we have wonderful representatives from the senior class who take on those responsibilities to lead the senior class and the building. But I thought it would be an interesting idea to maybe think about. The SGO representative back in the day would bring certain school issues before the board that were very serious in terms of school environment, quality of life here, thoughts about their education. It was a very serious type of a role. And it's just evolved into a different thing over time, and things do that. But I mean, we can, 21st century, and we're really giving kids in our district some great skills, and we see it every time we honor them. So I think it would be just, something different to think about. And I think the children would benefit from it, and I think they would bring something to the table for us to see what's going on in the buildings and what we work so hard for to provide for them.
Excuse me. What Great Neck does is they have representatives from each of their middle schools, each of their high schools,
Right.
and their alternative high school.
Get the village school.
They actually have tables for the students who are there with paper nameplates, not quite as permanent as yours, but those students are invited to every meeting, and they are permitted to comment on board discussion items before the community would be permitted to comment. So they get a lot of and a lot of treatment. Now, I can't tell you, you can find out, or I can find out from the superintendent. I'm not sure how they are elected there, but these children show up at every meeting, and they really are treated as junior board members.
We'll do.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Historically, what happened here, as Lisa said, we had an elected SGO board rep who basically did what you indicated. They stayed for the whole meeting. They were allowed to comment, and with time, the position became harder and harder to fill. So it became a point in time where it was so difficult to get somebody who was willing to come to the board meetings and to act in that particular way, that the presidents of the SGO had suggested that they would come in place and they would take that over. But that's what happened to the position. But it's certainly worth looking into because that wasn't the place here for many years.
And I think every class and every building, I mean, it's so important. You know, we're instituting the History Day curriculum in the middle school, and, you know, civics is a very, very important part of, I think, our students' education as they become citizens, mature as citizens, and I think that's a good role to develop their civic interest.
So, does,
And their civic skills. To advocate for their schools, advocate for issues that are going on in their buildings. And I think it can be done very well and thoughtfully, and I think there are many kids that would enjoy that.
so does the board want me to follow up on figuring this out?
I think we'd want to have a full board discussion, like, because depending on how significant a change we're talking about, it could
take a
be
year or
significant
more
change.
to do it thoughtfully.
Yeah,
Right,
we could do
can
some.
find out what some other places do, you're thinking?
Yeah, we could do some. We can do some thinking on it, and
I'm sure Tim has thoughts, would have a lot of thoughts on it, and Mary Ann.
Great. So we'll do some thinking on it, and we'll bring you that thinking, and then we can make some decisions. I think it's a great idea to get student voice in a prominent way. Good suggestion.
Great.
Thank you.
Other new business? All right, then, motion to adjourn. Thank you all.